Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I have a king representing the state of Maryland. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. John Newman. John Newman, also known as YODA, boasts a 20-year tenure in the real estate sector. Throughout his career, he and his team have facilitated the sale of nearly $1 billion in residential properties. Again, that's with the letter B, billion. Despite encountering failures, he is committed to sharing these valuable experiences with the community, highlighting both successes and setbacks. Presently, John holds ownership and investment positions in various brokerages, a title company, or real estate investment firm, and serves as a faculty member at the Keller Williams University. Additionally, he acts as an area director for the Maryland, D.C. region and the vice president of growth for Keller Williams Capital Properties. Renowned as a distinguished speaker and trainer nationwide, he has earned recognition from Real Estate Executive Magazine as one of the top 100 most influential individuals in the industry. John's life purpose is centered on serving God by empowering individuals to lead a purpose-driven life through his exceptional coaching and training initiatives. Everyone, please give it up for Mr. Newman. Hey, John, how are you feeling today?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Another day, another dog, another day in paradise for you.
We got to wake up this morning, so that's a gift.
That is. We got to be grateful for that. You're totally right. John, what year did you get into the real estate industry, if you don't mind sharing?
So interesting story. I got into real estate. I was a stockbroker at a company called Merrill Lynch. For like right out of college, and I did that for 7 years, and I got into real estate in February of 2003. I got into real estate solely as an investor, did not have a license, solely like I was an investor developer.
Nice. You doing fix and flips or just long-term rentals or?
Predominantly fix and flips.
Nice.
Did that from 03 to 07 and then pretty much lost everything. And How'd you bounce back stronger than ever? Say again?
How'd you bounce back stronger than ever after that?
I'm a sucker for punishment. No. I think that's just life. I think life is full of ups and downs, and you win some, you lose some, but you got to get back up. So I think that's the key to success in life. You just get back up.
No, you're totally right. No, you got a strong gut, thick skin to ride that roller coaster. Very few people, like, once the streak ends, streaks don't last forever, and once the streak ends for some, they really bow out. But you kept going. I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
With your resume, you're at nearly 1 billion sales. What's your true legacy? Like, in your own words, I want to hear it from you. Like, what legacy do you want to leave behind when you hang up the cleats and when it's all said and done?
Good question. And I teach a lot of classes on this. So I'll give you two answers to this question. One is my life's mission. So, and we talked a little bit, I think in the intro, you talked a little about that. Like, my life's mission is to serve God by empowering other people to live a life of intention through leadership coaching and training. Now, what does that actually mean? Like, so my infinite game, I want to have the biggest funeral. I want to have the world's biggest funeral. Like, it's not money. It's just like, okay, how many people showed up on my final day? And that's kind of how I'll judge myself.
No, it's very interesting, John. It's a very interesting concept right there. Like, most people don't know, like, who shows up to the funeral, and most people don't even know, like, how long will the name John Newman last after you're gone, That'll be interesting. Hopefully it lasts for decades and decades.
Well, I mean, I'm very, very clear, Vincent, on when I got into business, the reason that I did what I did was about either things or about money. Like, I wanted to make a certain amount of money or acquire a certain number of things. And the gift of going through that last market cycle kind of exposed to me that, you know what is the infinite game? What is the game that you're playing such that every day that I wake up, like, I can never end. There's no finish line. And if I have a goal that's set purely on finance, and once again, a goal is different than a life's purpose or a life's mission. But if my goal is purely financial, then what happens when I get there? Like, now what do I do? So I had to set a goal that was an infinite goal, that to the day that, as long as I'm here on earth, like I'm always working towards achieving that goal, which is bigger than something that's about money or about things.
No, you're truly leaving a legacy behind. Like you're hoping, like, not only have you helped families get generational wealth, you're helping the trajectory of other human beings. So you really are doing good well in this. You have that giver's game mentality, I would say. But John, like if you could go back in time, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received early in your career that could have changed your whole trajectory? Could have been a catalyst.
That's a great another great question, Vincent. I think I received a lot of advice that was valuable advice. I don't think I was in a position where I was willing to listen. So when I got into real estate, I read this book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which was written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Great book, by the way. I read it, but I didn't apply it. I wanted to recreate the wheel. I wanted to do things my own way. And today I live by a philosophy that I'm never as smart as I think I am. Like there's always systems, models, and people that have walked before me. And now I just submit myself to following models and systems that other people have created. I don't need to be creative, John, and try and recreate the wheel anymore. I'm too old for that now. So I think the best advice was, once again, it was given to me. I just was not in a position where I was willing to submit and listen. Because remember, there's no new ideas in any business. The question is, are we willing to listen and apply what others have done?
No, you're totally right, John. You're totally right. Yeah, either we learn through trial and error, or you learn through someone else's trial and error. And what you're saying is totally right. You'd rather learn through someone else's trial and error because that cuts our learning curve, and like it really propels us even faster. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying now. But John, have you ever been like driving or like on your phone or watching TV, like, maybe if I wasn't in real estate, I would be doing something else. Like, what other dream career would be that for you? You think?
I've been in this industry for a while. I love the game of real estate, and I look at it like a game. Like I'm a student of the game. If I had to do something else, I've always had a passion for like human psychology and human performance. Like what makes people tick? What differentiates the highest performers in any industry from somebody else? So I don't know, maybe I'd be a psychologist or a sports agent or a sports psychologist, something along those lines.
No, I totally get you. You have a way of looking at like the intangibles or like human behavior, almost something that really like something that can't be measured, but they have the it factor. They have the it factor. I feel like.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool.
No, I totally get it. No, I totally get it. You mentioned a book earlier, the Millionaire by Gary Keller. What's another favorite book or podcast and article that's had a significant impact on your work? Would you say?
Think and Grow Rich, by Napoleon Hill, the richest man in Babylon. My gosh, I'm an avid reader. So Rocket Fuel is a great one. Podcasts, I'm listening to John Maxwell has a podcast on leadership, because I think leadership is the pinnacle of, if you want to make the biggest impact and earn the most amount of money, like you need to become a leader. So John Maxwell, I'm listening right now to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast, which I think is a great podcast. I'm listening to Alex Hormozy's podcast right now, and I don't remember the name of it, but I'm listening to him. And then fantasy football. Like right now, it's football season, so it's fantasy football, and I'm listening to fantasy football podcasts every single morning.
No. I think everyone should have their escapism at least 30 minutes or an hour a day almost. But no, that's amazing. Even though you've done your 10,000 hours, John, in what you do, you're still learning. You're still like a sponge, which is like I applaud you and commend you for still wanting to be a student of the game, even though you're widely successful, I would say. But what are your personal goals for the next 5 to 10 years? Like what's your vision just for these next 5 to 10 years yourself?
I think in a lot of ways our industry is evolving. So to set and it's somewhat challenging right now because remember, like I still sell houses, but then I'm involved in a lot of leadership positions. We're at an interesting inflection point in our industry where for me to say what our industry will look like 10 years from now, honestly, I have no idea. I know that consumers will always pay for value added advice. So I think there will always be a need for consultants to help consumers through a home buying process. But what does it look like? I have no idea. What I can tell you is that I will be in a role where I'm impacting people's lives in the real estate industry. I don't know what the title or how I'm doing that, but I know that I will be doing that at a large scale because ultimately that's my passion.
No, I truly believe it. You're like either you love what you do or you love who you work with, and it sounds to me like you get to do both, which is amazing.
Yeah, I play every day.
Tap dance to work. Do you think just out of curiosity, do you think like at some point in the future people will be buying with like a digital currency or like a Bitcoin, like a blockchain by chance?
Yeah, I mean, I dabble in some NFTs and I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I dabble in NFTs and in cryptocurrencies just because I want to, once again, I'm a student of the game. So I don't say that I need to be an expert in NFTs or cryptocurrencies, but I need to be aware of things that are happening that could impact our industry. And without a doubt, I can see how title companies and transfers of real estate, I can see how it would make a lot of sense to have that on the blockchain.
Yeah, same here, John. Same here. The thing with that though, like I'm not gonna lie to you, it all deals with lobbyists. If lobbyists can push it through, then it can happen. If not, if the other guys don't want it, then like it's not gonna happen. But yeah, it really all comes down to lobbyists. So that'll be an interesting one to see how that one plays out.
And it saves time. It's just ultimately like any business will go towards like how do we become more efficient. Mm-hmm. And if you think about the effort that it takes from like a title transfer, we got to do a title search and do all this different stuff, and we got to trace it and track it. Well, the blockchain makes it easy. It's right there. It leaves a digital footprint and I can see it. I can see every transfer that's happened. So to me, it just makes sense. And things that make sense typically work their way into business.
Hey, we don't have a crystal ball, but perhaps it comes into fruition one day. We'll see. But going back to you, what's the most challenging aspect of being in your role in today's world in 2024?
Most challenging part of my role. So, like I said, I wear a lot of different hats. I think the most challenging part is at the end of the day, I deal with, when you're in any type of leadership position, you're dealing with humans. Like I don't deal with robots or I don't deal with, binary code. I deal with people, and people will always be challenging because people have emotions and they have feelings and so I think the most challenging part of my role, like right now, especially when we're in a state of a lot of changes in our industry, is dealing with the human emotions and helping individuals self-discover, change is always going to happen in any industry. Your participation and how you react to that change, that's a decision that you get to make. And just dealing with people and understanding their emotions is challenging because they're people.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right, because I'm not gonna lie to you. Like you said it correctly. Like change is inevitable, but most people don't like change. They don't like the unknown, like because they don't know what foresees it. What does the cliche goes? It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So like I'm sure like you're like teaching something new. Like it's like a little like I'm sure there's a little barrier to it. But once you break through it, you're gonna explode.
Well, that's how growth happens, Vincent. Vincent happens on the edges when you get uncomfortable. So if I want to build muscle, I have to break down my muscle, which is going to be uncomfortable, to then rebuild it. And when you think about like every industry goes through changes, and it's those people that are willing to accept it and move forward that typically survive and then thrive. But nothing stays the same. Now, biologically, the reason it's uncomfortable, biologically, we're designed to stay in homeostasis. Like biologically, we are wired to stay in a comfort zone. We have to break those patterns to allow ourselves to get outside of comfort. But biologically, it's not that people are good or people are bad or some are driven or some. It's like literally biologically, we're designed to stay in homeostasis.
You definitely, I can learn a thing or two from you, John. You definitely know like you definitely know what you're talking about. But what do you think is the key to maintaining a work-life balance, and how do you apply it in your life?
I live by my calendar, and I've broken apart I think everybody in their life has multiple roles. So I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a business person. For me, like I have a spiritual side of me. So I've broken apart my life in multiple different areas that are important to me. So my health, my spirituality, my relationships, my family, my fun, my business, my wealth. And I go through a process every single week where I try and, okay, what's the most important thing in each one of these areas of my life? And I think it's a common myth. I don't know if we're ever quote unquote balanced. I don't know if that's actually true, but I know that every day I have key areas of my life that are important to me. And on top of that, I want to learn, I want to earn, and I want to play every single day. So I look at my day and I break apart my day and I say, okay, what's the one, if you've read the book, The One Thing, which I would highly recommend, what's the one most important thing that I need to accomplish this week for my health? And I try and reduce it down to very, very simple tasks that don't become overwhelming. So I don't create a to-do list, because that's infinite. It never stops. Like I create a success list to say, okay, what's the one thing I need to do for my health? What's the one thing I need to do for my business today? What's the one thing I need to do for my wealth today? And I just break apart my day very, very, it's actually relatively simple once you build the habits around it.
No, you're probably right. They say it takes like 2 weeks or 21 days to build a habit, and you're very strategic and very pragmatic, I would say, on how you go about things. What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned so far in your career?
So I'll give you a couple of things, a couple like John-isms. Don't confuse brains for a bull market. So when a market is going, I don't care what business you're in, every business goes through cycles. Don't think that you're smart just because you happen to be in the right cycle. So I'll go back to when I was flipping houses. I flipped houses from 2003 to 2007. I thought I was a genius. Guess what? Then the market changed. I wasn't that smart. In real estate, we have business cycles. And I would say for the last probably like 8-10 years, it's been a relatively easy cycle of business to be in real estate. I mean, it's not very difficult to sell houses when you have interest rates at 2 3/4 or 3.5%. Now we're moving into a more challenging cycle. So don't let my ego, because I went through a good business cycle, get ahead of me. Like I have to stay learning based because winter is coming. Winter always comes. And in the seasonality of business, I'm always trying to prepare myself for the next cycle and not get too ahead of myself. So don't confuse like, oh, well, I'm a superstar because I happen to be in the right business at the right time. And then the other thing is submit to models. Like find a model, find a mentor of somebody else that has walked before you. Don't recreate the wheel. I think if I had to narrow down to the single best advice that I could give somebody is be very clear on where you want to go, and then find a mentor or a model that has already done it before you. And then just ask that person massive amounts of questions. And maybe you have to talk to 5 people before you can find a mentor, but go find that person. And if you find the right person, a lot of them will tell you everything because somebody else mentored them. So and just rip off and duplicate. R&D, baby. Rip off and duplicate what they've already done. Then when you master that, then move on to the next thing.
You understand the game very well, John. You literally you analyzed it down to the science of what it takes to scale and grow your business. But if someone came to you today, what would be your advice to them? Because usually in real estate, it takes what we do today, it plays out 3 months from now. Like, what would be your advice to them to end the year strong and really take off in 2025 as a new agent?
So, great question. Number one, there's two patterns that I'm seeing right now, and I wish I would have done 10 years ago. Well, it's actually I did have it 10 years ago. I just didn't. We are all in any business right now. We are fighting for consumer attention. So, in other words, I wake up this morning. I've got 50 emails in my inbox. I open my phone and I've got Facebook, I've got Instagram, I got TikTok. I'm being bombarded by information there. I'm getting text messages. I might turn on the TV. I'm being bombarded by information that is trying to grab my attention. Where I'm seeing a lot of, and then you have to ask yourself, where does the consumer eyeballs go today? I can factually tell you, I don't read all of my emails. I get so many emails, I don't read them all. I don't answer all of my phone calls. But the consumer eyeballs are on social media sites right now. And some of the top performing agents that I'm talking to around the country that are having their best years ever, I'm starting to see a correlation between their social media presence. Because the beauty of social media is, and I'm no expert in this, I'm just seeing patterns. Social media works for you 24 hours a day. Like, I can't cold call somebody 24 hours a day. I can't door knock somebody 24 hours a day. But my TikTok, Instagram, YouTube channel, whatever, that's working for me 24 hours a day. So it's a hack. You are hacking consumer attention. So number one, if I were starting over again today, and the funny thing is, I had a YouTube channel in 2012. I just didn't stay up with it. If I were starting off today, I would have a strong social media presence and try and hack consumers' attention that way. Number two, I would double down on I want deep relationships, not wide relationships. So I would double down on, we talk about building a database. What value and how can I stay in relationship and provide an amazing experience, educate them, and stay in relationship with my database? And I think what I see in the industry a lot is we think we have a lead problem. We don't have a lead problem. We have a conversion and communication problem. Agents don't have an issue with leads. Leads are nothing more than pieces of data. The question is, once you have the data, how do you stay in conversation and provide value and reach them in a place where their attention is going? So
right. You're totally right. You're totally right though. If the agent or whoever's doing like the social media has the roadmap when the consumer gets to this point, what's the next point? Like if they know the whole roadmap from like the beginning to A to Z, from like beginning to the finish line, yeah, they can truly be successful in this. That's a great point though that you bring up. And yeah, the social media being omnipresent, I think that's what they call it now these days. Is like that is the key to like people, like that's how you build trust over time. You're totally right on that.
And the other thing that we should be thinking of, Vincent, and as you can tell, I like to talk. How are we building community? So think about it, in a world where in theory we are more connected than ever, in many ways we're actually disconnected. Because, and I'll give you an example. Vincent, when is your birthday, buddy?
May 20th.
May 20th. How many people go onto your Facebook page or Instagram or whatever and say, hey, happy birthday, Vincent?
A good amount, actually.
How many people reach out to you and give you a phone call? Like a true relationship. So are we building relationships or are we building followers? Are we building community? Because there's a difference between the two. And I think in today's world, there's a desire for consumers to have authentic relationships in community. So how can I change my business model so that I can deliver authentic relationships and build community around that.
John, you're literally talking something new today. I never thought of it though. Building a community, that literally is the caveat. That's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah. I think it's very, very valuable.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad I talked to you today. If you could have, switching gears a little bit, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Any historical figure? Steve Jobs. Yeah.
Very forward thinking. Very forward thinking. So yeah.
I mean, I love just the way that he thought about things. Like, his phrase, you can't connect the dots, looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. Like, I think Steve Jobs would be awesome.
Nah, that's a great pick. It's a money pick, I would say. Who or what inspires or influences you the most in your work these days?
So in purely in the world of real estate, for me, it's Gary Keller. I mean, without question. I think Gary Keller has been a visionary for our industry for a long time, and when he says something, I listen, and I may not necessarily do it, and that's been my issue. But 100% in the real estate game, I have various kind of like role models or for various stages of my life. Warren, but if I wanted to talk about my wealth and I said, okay, who would I want to follow or who's made an impact? It'd be somebody like Warren Buffett. Now, I don't have a relationship with him like I do with Gary, but I think Warren Buffett has showed how to build wealth. So I might have him for wealth. Health, I might have somebody else, but purely in the real estate game, 100 without question, it's Gary Keller. Today, as I speak here today.
No, not Gary Keller. Yeah, he's a living legend these days. And then Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's like, he literally does give all the secrets. His letter to his shareholders, he gives out all the secrets. He literally knows 90 even though he gives out his secrets, he knows 90% of the people won't listen to him, which is like crazy to me. It's crazy. You can literally give out the secrets, but like 90% of the people won't listen to you. Like, it's the craziest concept, but it is what it is. And then what's the story behind your most memorable success or failure, would you say?
So, it's interesting. I was teaching a class today, and most people would say that, oh, cool, like you've done a lot of things in real estate. You have a pretty good resume, for lack of a better word. My biggest accomplishment, though, is that I've got through all this craziness in this business. In October, I'll be married for 25 years. And as of like 15 minutes ago, my wife and kids still love me. So through all the chaos, I've managed to keep focused on actually the most important things, which is my wife and kids. So that's my biggest accomplishment, is that. Not money, not awards, not accolades. I'm married. I'll be married for 25 years, and my kids still think I'm pretty cool.
That's amazing, John. I hope you continue to be a number one husband and number one father for your family. I'm sure you cherish your moments with them. They're more valuable than any currency. And you don't have to answer this one, John, but like, how do you handle criticism or negative feedback about your work if it's ever happened?
So I'm a very, very direct and blunt person. So I appreciate criticism and feedback because I believe that helps me become better. What I don't appreciate is people that just want to make me feel good, but are not directly and brutally honest with me. So I welcome, I welcome feedback. I welcome criticism, as long as it's, because I can't learn something. Like, I can't become better if someone isn't willing to point out how I can improve. So I actually look forward to it because that's how I can improve as an individual. Wow,
you really are a sponge. Like, you are continuously getting better and you never stop learning. Like, you continuously always want to get better, which It's probably why you're elite, because you just want it that bad. And then what's the next big thing we should expect in the industry, and how are you contributing to it? Like what occurred this month? How are you prepping your agents or everyone at Keller Williams like to see this as an opportunity and not a challenge?
So it's interesting because I said in the class this morning, like in a weird way, I feel like I've lived through this before in another industry. So in the mid 90s, I was a stockbroker. When I was hired at Merrill Lynch, I was a stockbroker. And our industry, this was, and you're a little bit younger than myself, but we had this thing called the dot-com bubble in the late 90s. And it's where technology companies started to do things. So our industry went through a cycle. And by the way, when I was a stockbroker, I got paid a commission every time somebody bought or sold a security. So if you bought a share of America Online, I got paid a commission. If you sold a share of America Online, I got paid a commission. And that commission back then was, it averaged, let's just say 3%. Our industry changed. E-Trade came out, Ameritrade came out, Charles Schwab Online came out, and these other companies were able to provide transactional type services for a lower fee. So what happened at Merrill Lynch? We had to become fiduciaries. So I had to go back to school and get additional training around how can I provide holistic financial advice. So I had to look at the whole entire picture. It wasn't transactional. It was more, how do I look at the complete picture of an individual? And guess what? There's still financial advisors today. As a matter of fact, there's more financial advisors today at Merrill Lynch than there was in the late 90s, even though the headlines were, you won't need a financial advisor anymore. I mean, I can go on my phone right now and buy a share of stock for next to nothing. But guess what? You hire an advisor for different reasons. So from a real estate standpoint, I think it's time that, and I don't know where I heard this phrase before, but the lifestyle real estate agent may be going away. Like, you're actually going to have to be a professional in this industry, and you're going to have a conversation with a buyer or seller, more so on the buyer side right now. That's where we're hearing a lot of the noise. Here's the value I provide in exchange for my compensation. And as long as you can do that well and provide value, here's why you would hire me. And here's the value that I provided, and be very, very clear on that. Like, the struggle that I'm hearing right now across the industry is a lot of the questions that I'm hearing are questions of what is the methodology for me to receive compensation? Do I need this form? Do I need that form? Is it going to be offered this way or offered that way? What I challenge everybody for is, no, the question you should be asking is, what value do you provide for someone? And be clear on, if I provide enough value to you, Vincent, it doesn't make a difference how the mechanism by which I'm compensated. You'll just write me a check because I'm delivering so much value to you. So how are we enunciating our value to a buyer?
Yeah, you're totally right, John. It's more like the value proposition of like we going back again, like it's an intangible skill set they just have to have for the consumer to witness it and see the value in it. But John, while staying on this topic, how would you explain to your agents to explain to consumers this? Like, there are some consumers like sitting on the sidelines or on the fence, like waiting for rates to drop. But what they don't know, John, is it's like on average, their wage growth is only 2 to 3%. The home that they like actually goes up in value 5 to 6% a year. So them waiting for rates to drop is like going to push the home value higher. And if more buyers come into the pool, like that can push the home price higher and actually price them out from a home. How would you explain that to like a consumer, like in a very eloquent, like third grade level?
So I want to go back into whether someone's buying or selling a house, unless they're an investor and they have a short-term horizon. Mm-hmm. I mean, most people stay in their houses now for 12 years. So if rates drop, I'm trying to get to so I'll ask from a buyer, why are you thinking about, forget about interest rates, forget about home values right now, because our values coming up, going down, going sideways. Like if I was that smart and I knew all of that, then we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I want to get to the conversation. Why are you thinking about buying a house? What does it do for you or your family? And I want to get to a deep conversation about what really matters. Forget about all of these other things. Forget about the noise. Why are you thinking about becoming a homeowner? What does that do for you? I'm trying to get to their motivation. And if I can get to their motivation, then all that other stuff is just noise. I mean, I can't predict interest rates. Nobody can predict interest rates. No, and here's what happens, and I saw this in the financial markets. Everybody that wanted to buy stocks and bond or stocks, you want to buy what? At the bottom. I don't want to buy it when it's too high. Well, how do you know when the bottom happens? Like, I mean, I'm not that smart. I'm not that smart. So if you're going to go down the path of, well, I should wait because interest rates should be lower, cool. Then what's going to happen 6 months from now? Are you still going to wait? Are you still going to wait? Are you still going to wait? Because the interest rates might be going lower. And the next thing you know, it's almost like dropping a rubber ball on the ground. And you're trying to time it perfectly for when it hits the ground. Good luck with that. I can buy now and always refinance.
Thank you. No, you're a genius. Like you literally, like there's some theory that says like if you ask why 3 or 5 times, like you actually find like the root cause of like the driver behind something. And you push that driver, like you said like you can really get them to like move forward almost. So like, yeah, you actually know psychology, I would say. And if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be and why?
Wow, one thing about the industry. Whew, it's a complicated industry.
There's a lot of moving parts, like title, loan officer, real estate agent.
So if I could wave a magic wand, I do believe that especially the home buying experience, I think is antiquated. So like, if you just think through from the eyes of a consumer, I want to buy a house. I've got to talk to a loan officer. I got to talk to a real estate agent. Then I've got to look at properties. And then I got to call an agent who has to call another agent to see if that property is available to be shown. And then I got to work around calendars to figure out, like, is that time convenient for me or convenient for the seller or convenient? And then I've got to do a home inspection. Like, it's a really complicated process that I don't believe, and I think we do as an industry the best we can to manage expectations. But I just think that consumers want an easy button. I want to hit a button and get all of this stuff in exchange for some compensation. So how do we streamline the entire process so that it can be much more user-friendly for the consumer? And I don't know what that looks like, but I just know that it's frustrating for consumer. Like me being a consumer, I bought a house. It's frustrating. It's like I got to go through all these steps, and it just feels complicated. Most other things, I want to book an airline ticket. I go in there, I hit a button, and I book the ticket. Now, I do believe that buying a house is much more complicated than buying an airline ticket. So I do need professional advice to help me develop a plan of attack to get there. But I think I would like to see the whole process be much more streamlined with the agent as an intermediary. So the agent as the quarterback or the fiduciary to line up all these pieces. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to hit a button and be able to do that. The other thing that I probably would change is I'd probably force more training and education. I'd probably like, I'm not saying that there should be like, maybe instead of like the CE classes that I take, I'm just forced to do other things to level up my professionalism.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. No, but you're right. Going back to your first thought, like that one button, like that's just called convenience. If there's a way to just provide convenience to the consumer, you're right. You're always gonna win if you can truly provide them convenience, because it's like stress free, smooth sailing. Like, yeah, it's everything that the consumer would want in a transaction. Um, but and then what's the most courageous decision you made recently, and how did it impact you?
Most courageous decision I made, and how did it impact me? From a business standpoint, I guess, right?
Yeah, your life, whatever you want to go with it.
Well, I mean, recently, I can't think of anything like recently, like in the last 12 months per se. But I can just tell you kind of like my philosophy in business and in life. It's probably easier.
Yeah, please do.
I have a tremendous amount of faith. And my faith allows me to believe that I don't really have to be fearful of making decisions, because it's going to work out or it's not going to work out, but I'm going to learn something through the process. And I believe that I am where I'm supposed to be at all times, because I believe that God has a plan for me, and whatever is happening, good or bad in my life. And it's easy for me to look at the bad things or the negative things. Like, I believe it all happens for a reason. So, and I'll give you an example. So, I told you I pretty much lost everything in the last 2007, 2008. And in that moment, that was a very, very challenging time. Why me? I lost everything. I had to sell all of my stuff. Well, one of the things that I had to do is I had to sell a condo that I owned in Ocean City, a second house that I owned in Ocean City. And in that moment, I was like, this is a negative thing. Well, guess what? I had to short sale that condo. Now, in 2009, when I short sold that, a lot of people didn't know what a short sale was. Like, that was kind of new to our industry. So I had to figure it out on my own. Well, because I had to figure out short sales, I started doing trainings and speakings on short sales. And that actually helped fuel my business. And then that led to another thing happening. So in the moment, me having that negative consequence was actually setting up for something much bigger. So I think having the courage to accept where you are and then keep moving forward. That's probably the most courageous things. Get back up and keep moving forward.
Nah, you're totally right, John.
You don't fail at anything until you give up.
Ain't that the truth? Well, that's funny. Like, when one door closes, three more could open up for you. Like, you just have to see. You just always have to see, like, the glass half full. Always be optimistic. Like,
and we're in a tough time right now. Like, this is probably, when you look at the number of transactions, like, this is what we're dealing with for the last 12 months is nothing. Like 2007, 2008 was a breeze compared to what we're dealing with right now.
Really?
Oh, 100%. I mean, just look at the number of, I mean, we may be on pace to have, statistically or historically, one of the lowest amount of resales ever, like, in a long time. Like, we're in challenging times, and you can look at that as it's a curse, or you can look at that as that's a gift, and the choice is yours. So what is your perspective on things? Yeah, it's hard. Life is hard. Get over it. Who said life was going to be easy?
No, you're funny, man. You're funny. Thank you for that insight. That's a pro tip right there, ladies and gentlemen. What you just mentioned. And then, John, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about real estate in today's world as a consumer?
From a consumer standpoint, honestly, I'm not sure consumers truly understand what we do. Because I don't think as an industry, we have done a great job of explaining to them with complete transparency all the things that we actually do. So from a consumer standpoint, I think they're relatively, it's interesting. I had a family member come over the weekend, and they had read headlines that some big thing happened like August 17th or in our industry. But truly, when I'm talking to the family, they're like, but I don't understand any of this stuff. Like, I never understood exactly what you did or how compensation worked. So I think from a consumer perspective is they are unconsciously incompetent, which means they don't know what they don't know about what we do. And I think we have to take them from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. I don't know that I should know something. And we have to walk them through this process. And I think that's up to us as professionals to walk them through this process.
No, you're totally right, John. You're totally right. You essentially you want to hold their hand and give them that 5-star user experience. And what's crazy, they say like most Americans only have like a 3rd grade like financial literacy average. That's what it is. So yeah, we definitely have to like educate and be like a fiduciary almost. And
yeah, 100%. It's a fiduciary. That's where we have to move towards fiduciary, and not transactional. Move away from transactional to relational.
Yeah, if you actually understand the consumer and where they're at in life, then yeah, you can just paint the picture in the canvas, like the full picture in the canvas, and just take them where they have to go. And John, I know you mentioned it earlier, but do you think about the short sales? But do you think like there is any other point in your life where like your eyes opened up and that you saw like the career like inflection point in your career, knowing like this was you, like you were gonna conquer it?
So I do see trends in the marketplace. And right now I can, it's crystal clear to me. There's a trend in our marketplace that is happening. The question is, and I do a class on this. If you just study, like we're coming into something, and you can Google this, called the Great Wealth Transfer. So most people are unaware that roughly 40% of houses in the US, roughly, because statistics are always statistics, are owned by people between the ages of 65 and 85. So that's almost 1 out of 2 houses are owned by people, and we call them the baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that aging population, we can't slow down one thing. You have the 5 Ds in real estate. What's one of the Ds?
No clue.
Death. Like we can't stop death. So over the average life expectancy for someone in the US is roughly around 80 years old. You can look at birth rates and trends, and every year from the next 20 years, unless there's some kind of miraculous medical thing, more and more people, unfortunately, will pass away. Probate and estate sales will be one of the greatest segments of real estate for the next 20 years. You cannot stop it, because unless people stop passing away, roughly $84 trillion of assets will transfer from one generation to the next over the next 20 years. How can we as advisors put ourselves in a position to provide advisory services to help people through that transaction? Like, it is so obvious to me. I have charts on it. You can see it. Probate, estate sales, helping people through that process will be the greatest opportunity in real estate over the next 15, 20 years.
John, if you can, remember how you said you blew up with the short sales? You should see if you can blow up being a pioneer for trust, like just teaching you how to make a trust in real estate. Like, and I'm sure it's going to bring you good, even if you don't make that much money up front. Like, I'm sure down the line it'll come back and you'll make money on it. Yeah. But yeah, if you can be a pioneer for trust, I'm sure like people will thank you for that.
Yep. Well, I mean, I do some classes on probate, just because I started looking at this. This came to me because my mom actually passed away. That's how my mom passed away, and I started doing research on all this stuff, and I was like, wow, like this is a segment of our business where we can deliver a tremendous amount of value, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities. The other thing that you're seeing is as the population ages, as the demographics age, I was always told as a real estate agent, what does a seller want? They want to sell their house for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Well, as the population ages, sometimes people just want to sell in the shortest amount of time. Like, time becomes more valuable to me than the money. So I think you're going to see a lot more sellers transact real estate for just a cash offer. I just want to, I want to hit the easy button. So if you think about, once again, where opportunities are in the marketplace, I see two places. I see an aging demographic. I see people that will have to transfer the assets from one generation to the next. And that next generation may want a cash offer. They want to hit the convenient, easy button. So if I look at how I want to build wealth for the next 20 years, I'm going to focus on probate and estates.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. People do want like a stress-free experience. They don't want no headaches, none of that. That's so funny. I got two more questions for you, John. Before I let you go, one of them being that I will rewatch this when I'm like 80 years old. So like when I'm really old, I'm gonna rewatch this. I'm not gonna lie to you. So like, what's one piece of advice you want to leave with me, or something that will make me smile?
One piece of advice to leave with you. So I got this one from, and this isn't John. I'm stealing this from somebody else. So I had dinner with a guy that at the time his net worth was about $8 billion. And I asked him the question. I said, his name is Naveen Jain, Jain. And I asked him the question at dinner. I said, if you could leave your children with one piece of advice, what would that be? So this is what I want to share with you. And he said, intellectual curiosity. I want my kids to understand how to think, interpret information based upon their views, not the views of somebody else. I want them to always stay curious and question why not why. Like, why not? Like, who says? So I stay in curiosity. Once again, I need to follow all rules and norms of society, but I always question everything. I want to question everything because that allows me to A, stay in curiosity, and B, who says that it has to be done that way? Why can't it be done some way different? And if it can be done somewhat differently, then why can't the person that creates that process be me? So intellectual curiosity, stay in curiosity.
That's a good one, John. It's an intangible skill set. So it's funny how you go back to that intangible skill set. And then my final question for you is, what's the most misunderstood thing about you, your industry, and your work?
Ask that one more time.
The most misunderstood thing about yourself, your work, or your industry.
What's the most misunderstood thing about me? So I'm an open book. So I think people, I don't know if, like, I am who I am, and I don't, I don't vary from that. So I don't know if many people misunderstand me. I think one thing about me that most people don't realize is I'm actually a very, very introverted individual. Like, I actually enjoy solitude, even though I'm in a business that requires a lot of human interaction. I actually prefer solitude. So that's an interesting thing about me. The most misunderstood thing about the industry that I'm in is, I would go back to, I'm not sure that from a consumer standpoint, I'm not sure they understand exactly what we do, or why we do it. Or, I mean, I've talked to consumers over the years, and sometimes consumers think we get paid a salary to do it. I'm not sure that from a consumer standpoint, they truly understand what our value actually is. And I think that's now being challenged by the lawsuit. And I think it's up to us to bring light to and provide understanding. Like, no, this is these are all the things that you didn't even know that I do that actually we have to do. So I hope that helps. I'm not sure.
No, it does. It totally does. Again, though, the biggest takeaway for what I got from that is you're transparent, and now every agent that gets into the real estate game has to be transparent. And that's basically how the game is going to be played, is all based off transparency. And that's good. That if you're transparent, you probably will lead to referrals. And yeah, that was it, John. Do you have any other thoughts or comments or questions for me?
I'm just curious from your standpoint, why did you start doing a podcast? Why are you doing this?
So I used to cold call people, and sometimes like I would hear like really good stuff over the phone. I'm like, damn, that was so good. Like I wish someone else could hear this. And then another reason, like the title for it, when I got into the industry, I was becoming friends with any agent I could become friends with. And then like literally this year, July 4th, it hit me. I was like, I had like an epiphany. I was like, wait a minute. Like there's this theory where like it says like 20% of the people do 80% of the output.
80-20 rule. Yep.
Yeah. So I was just like, I've been trying to become friends with everybody when literally I should be becoming friends with like the best of the best, because they probably do more work than anybody I'm trying to become friends with. So that's why I did this, to be honest with you.
I love it. That's an amazing, it's funny because that, and I don't know if we're still live or how this really works, but the person that I did a podcast years ago, once again, and then stopped doing it because it required a lot of my time, or at least back then when I started, it required more time. We didn't have the technology we have today, but the individual that I went out to dinner with, Naveen Jain, he was a guest on my podcast. And I remember asking him, now the night before he had dinner with Richard Branson. So he had dinner with Richard Branson, and then he had dinner with me. And I asked him a question. I said, listen, why did you agree to have dinner with me? And you know what he said?
What did he say?
Because you asked. So don't be afraid to just ask a question. And that's why I love what you're doing. Like you reach out to me, like, would you mind doing this? Yeah, sure. I'd love to. And what I have found over the years is successful people in any walk of life or any industry, whether it's sports, business, health, if you just ask a question, how can you help me? Most people are more than willing to help if you just ask the question.
No, you're right. You're
How
right.
do you want to ask?
Yeah, you miss 100% shots you don't take, so you might as well just take it and see where it lands. Shoot for the moon and in the stars.
Yep.
And John, how give your number or your email or your Instagram, or how do you like to be reached exactly?
So Instagram, it's at Newmanite. So my last name, NEWMANITES. And myself, I have no problem. My cell phone number is 301-343-7671. Like I give my cell phone number out to anybody, because you know why I do that?
Why?
Because most people won't call me. Because they're afraid.
You're probably right. You're probably right, John. Hey, you're still a walking billboard. You're still a walking billboard. Marketing. I assume that's like the major equation for any agent. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from a king of Maryland, John Newman. Thank you, John, for your time. It was a true pleasure and honor having you on the show. Can you stay on for 1 or 2 minutes when I end this?
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, man. The pleasure was mine, to be honest.